everyone, it's Orkan. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to solve LeetCode 1721, swapping nodes in a linked list problem. So we have a linked list and we are given a linked list in our as an input, and we are also given the k an integer. So we need to swap the values of two nodes that are in k distance from the beginning and from the end of the linked list. For example, in the first example, k is equals to 2. So the second node from the beginning is this one, and the second node from the end is this one, and we need to swap the values. So at the end, our node, our linked list should look like following after swapping. So that's it. Let's see how we are going to solve this problem. Okay, actually let's take this example and work on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's say that we have 5 nodes here, and we have 5 nodes here, and k is equals to 2. Let's say that we need to swap this and this node, values of this and this node. So let's take a look actually how we can solve this problem. So this distance from the beginning of our from the beginning of our list to this point is k, to the first node that we are going to swap. And let's actually, the second part of the list, let's call it r as a remaining part. How about the opposite direction? The opposite direction is the same exactly. So this distance is k, okay, and from here to here, this distance is r. So exactly the same distance. So what we can do, the first thing that what we are going to do, we are going to create a f, which is the first node, which points to our the head of our list. So we are going to move that to k distance, and so when the f is pointing here, we found our first node. And what we can do here, so the distance from, so what we can do here, we can create one more variable, let's call it temporary, which is actually also pointing to our first node, to this one. And then in order to find the second, our second node, let's create one more, s, which is pointing to, let me put that in another color, which is pointing to our also head. The distance from the distance from S to our node is, as we can see here, R. That is the exact distance from T. So the node that the T is pointing to the end of our list. So if we are going to move the T and S simultaneously, so by the time when the T is pointing to null, right? By the time T is pointing to null, our S, S will point to our second node. Okay, so it's gonna point to our second node, and after that, that's it. We are gonna just we're gonna just swap the values f from the. We're going to set to f, the first one, the value of the second, and for the second one, we are going to set the value of first one. That's it regarding to that's the exact algorithm that we are going to use in this case. Okay, let's go and put this algorithm to code. Right, so let's start. So first thing that we are going to do, we are going to create, as we said, list node. Let's call it first. That is gonna point to our head of our linked list. So, and we are gonna say, okay, while k is more than 1 because it's first indexed list. So we are going to say, okay, so in that case, first is going to move to the next, right? And we're going to say, okay, k is equals to, we are just decrementing k. All right, so after exiting this loop, we have our first value, our first node with the value, and the next thing that we need to do, we need to create a second node. Let's call it list node, and the second, and it's also gonna point to our head. Okay, at the same time, not to lose our first node, we are gonna create list node. Let's call it temp, and that is gonna point to our first. Okay, so now we are gonna move, as we have seen in our explanation part. Now we are gonna move our temp and second simultaneously until temp next points to points to null. So if it is not equals to null, then what we are gonna do, we are gonna say, okay, temp equals to temp dot next. Okay, and the next one is second is gonna be equal also to second dot next. All right, so once we exit this loop, we have the first node, and we have the second node, and we can swap values. So what we are gonna do, we are gonna say, okay, int, let's say just the temp value. Okay, so temp value, so we're gonna say that not to lose that first value is first value, and the next one is that we are setting that value to the second one, and the second value of the second one to the first one. So we are gonna say that first value is equals to the second value. Okay, second value, and the second value is going to be equal to temp, because we temporarily stored that in our temp value variable. That's it. We swapped the first and second, and since we preserved our head, we just return our head, which will have correct values. All right, that's it. Let's check our code. All right, great. It actually works as expected from the first time. But anyway, so that's algorithm that we are using. So let's go over it one more time. So first thing that what we are doing, we are creating first, and we are moving the k distance from the beginning. Then we are creating another node that also points to our head, and we are creating temp that points to our first. Since the distance from the beginning, from the head to the second our node is exactly the same distance from the temp to the end of the node, we are moving them simultaneously. And once we have the second node, we are just swapping the values of first and the second. That's it. That's it for today. I hope you like my content. If you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe my channel. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.